a body to help municipalities regulate the trees because of the value that they provide to the community, where otherwise it might get overlooked. Like if engineers, if it trees in the way, they just cut it down or move it, because they're thinking of different types of infrastructure like utility poles and water connections and gas connections. And so the point of having the Shade Tree Commission was to be a body of people that remembers to argue for the benefits of trees. So I don't know, it's just a thought to put out there because it was downgraded, I think it was either 2008. So it hasn't really been that long. It was during their Senate's administration.
Can somebody find out what would be the advantage of asking to be a commission instead of a committee?
I think just Shade Tree Commissions are more recognized, and is where a committee is just a committee.
I think if we went to ask to be a commission, we'd have to have why we're asking for it.
Right.
What's going to make the difference?
Right. So, I mean, if we're not interested, we don't have to worry about it. It's just a suggestion for the committee to consider it.
No, actually, you brought up several good points. One is if we could see what the commission bylaws were or whatever their guiding documents were, if you can find that so that maybe we can look at that, and as we are, it may not happen immediately, but certainly it's something to think about. What's the difference between a commission and a committee? Commission sounds a little bit better. But the other part to that is one of the things that I had in my notes at one point was for this committee to send a note to the Department of Public Works, sort of that we wanted to have an input on the stormwater.
Oh,
which
yes.
I know is sort of on hold, not being implemented as soon, but that was one of the things that was on there, because and then part of that is leading into at some point making a presentation to the city council. And I'm not sure what we would go and present to them at this point, but just sort of begin letting people know that we're here and like to be involved in things. And along with that, I think we also asked about, can we have space on the city's Facebook and website pages, just to, again, let people know that we're here. I don't know.
I think that if we want, I can talk to the IT people about adding, I want to clarify, you want to be able to, do we want a page on the city's website, or you want to create your own Facebook page just for the Urban Forest Committee?
I think since we are a part of the city that we should, for my personal, that we should be a part of the city.
Okay, I can ask how to make that happen.
And I mean, that's just my idea, but that would be a place where, as we hopefully develop our mission statement and have activities and are looking for volunteers and those sorts of things, that's somewhere that somebody could go to and say, oh, this is a resource. And again, just in our infancy, but to begin trying to be more visible.
All we have to do to be, I'm assuming they would give us permission, which I'm assuming they would because we're an actual approved committee. We would have to submit them the information that we want on the website, and then they would put it on there. Okay. So we wouldn't have as much control over if we did also create a Facebook page. Then you could upload things easier or make announcements much faster. Otherwise, everything has to be emailed into the city people, and then they would have to put it on. And then we would have to give comment as to, no, move that here, or put this there, or we want that instead, which is okay. We can do that. We just, whatever we want, we just have to send them all the information. They don't really help create anything.
Okay.
But so,
are we able to have both?
I think we can have both.
Because the website sounds like something that would be created at one point in time and maybe updated like, if we have something that we want to, an upload that people could access with information or something, but for events or like little blurbs, like, hey, here's something you can do right now, come volunteer here. Facebook is a good way to reach people.
And we could still submit it through the city because the city does have a Facebook page and a Twitter account, so we can put, announcements and stuff on there. But again, it takes more time to go through the city, where if we did have our own page too, we could do our own thing whenever we wanted. So we can either do both or just go through the city, whichever we want to do.
Do we have to go through the city in order to create a Facebook page for this committee or for Erie's Urban Forest?
I don't think so. I mean, I'll double check, but I don't think they don't have to preview the information
That's surprising, but okay.
if we make our own.
Because someone would have to, like, a page is under an individual, as far as I know. And so, like, someone under their Facebook account would have to make the Urban Forest page.
Yeah, but can't nonprofits make one as a?
I'm pretty sure it has to be I don't know, like, this is
I
in
don't
my
know
area of
for sure either.
expertise, but when I made one for Erie Farm to School, which is like a project of the school district, it's under my personal account, and I wish that there was more separation than that, but it had to be someone's account and someone's email. Like, it couldn't just be our organization's Gmail, like, it had to be a person
I
that
see.
they could verify.
Well,
And
if
I
that's
don't
the
know who the
case,
city,
maybe we just want to use the cities.
like, if the city is a verified entity,
The
then-
city has its own Facebook
then maybe
page.
they could create it and then make us administrators in the way that we would be able to post to it, if they're okay with that. I don't know what the.
Yeah, I'd have to
procedure is
ask about
for
that.
something like
I'll still double check everything to see if we can just make our own, or can we have access to the cities, or whatever would make it easier.
Yeah, good, okay.
I'll double check on both of those things.
Well, one of the best of the presentations in that course was on stormwater management and trees as part of stormwater
Oh,
management.
good.
Did you get to see that?
I think that's one of the sessions I missed.
Yeah, that's one that got my attention perhaps the most.
Oh, nice. I'll have to look for that one.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the last, it must have been in.
Must have been the week before, because I missed both in the middle week. The middle week I missed both sessions, so it must have been then. I got to the first week and then the last week, but I missed the middle week.
But it certainly underscores the idea that we should have input into whatever they're planning for stormwater management, establishing fees or whatever, or what the solutions is rainwater management.
Well, I would say we want to move on that pretty quick then. I would consider drafting a letter right away because council's already voting on it.
Well,
Or
when
starting to
Kathy was
consider
here,
it.
I thought she said something to us that what they're voting on isn't like a stormwater plan, it was just the assessment of what the fees would be like.
Right.
I don't
But that's
remember
the-
exactly, it seemed like she tried to address that when we brought it
She did
up.
say that they had a limited focus.
That that they weren't yet at the point to talk about maybe the mitigation of the stormwater. I don't remember exactly how she said it,
Well,
but it sounds like it's gonna come
It's
up
good.
soon, like it's a pressing issue that's like,
and I think we should try to get involved as early in the process as
I
possible so
agree.
we have more
Yeah.
input for a longer amount of time.
Yes.
could that be something that if we do have a chance to speak with city council, like when the new council begins to meet, or if we have a chance to submit a question to them either before or after the election, we could at least get that on their radar that trees and stormwater are connected, and then if we have a chance to present, or if we can send a note to council about how these things relate and are important, like get them started to think about it before we come with an actual request.
But I think we should request to Public Works that we be included in the process, separate. Like that would be a letter to Public Works. And
Yeah.
then also, like you said, just provide information to City Council is always a good idea.
Okay, so.
So those are two things.
I could write a letter on behalf of the community to who would be, Jeff Zisk.
Yeah, I would send it to Mr. Zisk.
On stormwater management.
Or you can send it to, unless you wanted to send it to Chuck and to Kathy, the Director of Public Works and the Director of Planning.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think it's important for us to be a part of both of those.
I think so too.
And again, part of that is just getting into our visibility as well.
And then what was the second thing? You want to begin preparing information to provide to City Council on the importance of trees?
We mentioned like we want the council to know we're here, and that might lead up, because we keep mentioning policy in our goals, and that's our, like, any policy we'd want to advocate for, City Council would have to approve. So if we're working up to knowing that we want to ask them something or give them our goals and kind of say, hey, if you agree with our goals, we're going to be asking you to pass an amendment to the ordinance, or here's what we want to say about how the ordinance could be enforced.
Or maybe even just an introductory letter for now saying we're a new committee and who's on it, and yeah, like the generic, like our mission and goals, like you said, once we formally decide, and then saying,
yeah, like we
hi,
look
we're here,
forward to
working
like
with you.
Working with you, yeah.
That would be a good idea. Introducing the committee, because we are a new committee,
Yes.
and they're going to be a new council.
Yes, I think all of them, right? Pretty much.
And they might not know what our purpose is or why we exist, or
Yeah.
and then because we can also tie it into it's a tie to becoming a Tree City USA every year, and and some basic importance of trees, like you said, and just say, hi, what is it? We're here. We
Well,
like trees.
And importance of greenery and what encompasses a forest, trees as well as other plants.
Does this kind of lead us to your questions to ask current and future elected officials?
Well, unfortunately, we
You're
talked
running out of
about that in
time.
August, and we were hoping to get it. So,
These are the questions that Stephanie sent. I don't know if everybody got a chance to look at them, but I printed them out.
I just found these real
Discussed
quick when
about
I
it.
Google searched like tree related questions for city councils. But this was a tree, I think it was like a tree advisory committee or something in Seattle. And so they developed some really detailed questions for Seattle Council based on like, I mean, you'll see it if you look through, like they have a lot of data in here, like, okay, the plan says this, you're trying to get to this goal.
wow.
And then, do you support this, or what are your plans for this? And there were a couple I pulled out in the email that I thought seemed more relevant to what we talked about last time.
I think it would be also, I think we talked about also asking them more like, if you want to ask them questions before the election, like, I think even in general, like, what is their fondest memory or experience of a tree, or do they have a favorite tree or a
The last question
memory?
was the only one that was kind of more in that theme, where they said, share with us your favorite tree or memory of an open space and why you support continued investment in these community resources. I like that one too, because it's something almost everyone can, like a memory of a tree, a favorite tree, a time spent in a park, it kind of like.
So back to the purpose of this. So are we doing this for people who are running for office, or are we going to kind of scuttle that one and go for?
Well, I mean,
The
the election
people
is
who-
on Tuesday.
Yeah. People who
I
are
think we
elected.
went past that point.
So we missed that.
Well,
Okay, so we have a little more time to refine something.
I think that the only way you're going to get anybody to respond to this is if they're running for office.
Yeah.
City council, they have a lot of reading, they have a lot of meetings. To give them a questionnaire and ask them to fill it out.
Well, maybe instead we can go back to doing an informational thing, and then add one or two questions for when we ever get to go to meet with them. These are the questions we'd like to ask you when
Well, I like this as a means of getting information to them, absolutely. and engaging them by asking for their responses. I'm not saying just don't do this. I'm just suggesting that it's something that's going to get set aside.
Maybe narrow it down to only 5 questions.
Yes.
Or
something
two,
simple.
or two.
I would say 2 or 3
Yeah,
questions
yeah,
is
very
realistic
simple.
to
And then if
expect them
they-
to answer.
Yeah, and if they respond, and if they don't,
Right.
we can always
Again.
ask them again later.
Part of it is the visibility. We got a piece of paper there. They may not read it, they may not respond to it, but they will at least see, oh, we have an urban forest committee. I wonder what the heck they do.
Well, what if we send an email, yeah, the election's Tuesday.
Yeah.
We'll have people who are newly elected who have like that month or 2 before they would even attend their first meeting as an elected official. So if we send them a like congratulatory email or mailing, I don't know what one is more relevant right now, you know, to these
I would say to send them an
communications.
email, and then I'll still print it out and put it in their boxes.
Yeah, and say like, hi, congrats, we look forward to working with you, introduce ourselves, our committee, and then like, we'd love to hear your thoughts, and then just do 2, like probably 2 questions or 3 questions, the ones we feel get most of the point of where we're headed.
Maybe 2 like serious questions and 1 memory or fondness question.
Yeah. And we can see who responds, maybe they'll have more time before they're actually
And
on the
that's-
council getting inundated with all the requests that they get.
That would be fun. That would be
Well,
nice.
And I think send it to the newly elected ones plus the ones that are returning then again.
Yeah.
I think there are only 2.
Or what about actually attending a council meeting as a group, as our group, and just ahead of time, however you get yourself on the agenda, just introducing ourselves and our committee?
I think we want to get there, but I think that we need to do some groundwork for our own committee first, my own opinion, and then I think if we can get a couple of questions and a couple of bullet points in a 1-page to them, you know, mid-November, and then try to plan maybe in March or April, get
Yeah, and I can find out what would be better, to come to an actual council meeting or just going to a caucus meeting and introducing
Mhm.
ourselves.
Yeah, that would be nice.
But I think if we want to do this, which is awesome, thank you. I looked for something like this and I couldn't find anything, so good for you. What questions do we want to ask? And then what important information, because again, we would want to get it to them pretty soon in November. Because then it's the holidays and people don't read or do anything. So that's my
Do you
take
want to
on it.
work on that, Stephanie, or are you too busy doing other things?
No, I can work on it. I think what I contribute is what I put in the email, the questions that stood out to me, but I wanted to hear the council or the committee's opinion, because that was just me looking at, like, what did we talk about at some of our meetings, and the one about, do you support giving greater protection to large trees? What measures would you propose to provide this protection? I don't know if that's too detailed, but it was like kind of a yes or no question, like, so that it would help us know who on council is maybe gonna be supportive of anything that we'd want to propose.
Maybe-
And then asking them, what are your ideas, or what might you propose to protect large trees? Does that fit with what, like, the sustainability, like you as the arborist and sustainability is doing, trying to protect those bigger trees?
Uh-huh.
So that even if someone applied to cut one down, it wouldn't just be, I don't know. I don't know if we need that protection, but if we do, that's something we could ask them.
Oh,
if
we
they
need it,
support.
absolutely.
Yeah, we definitely need it. But I would try to write them more, these questions seem very formal to me. I would try to make them sound friendlier,
Okay.
a little friendlier. They seem very formal.
And simple.
Yeah, more like in common terms, more. I don't know.
All right. The other one I thought might be helpful was, do you support funding or like increased funding for maintaining public green spaces?
Or maybe not do you, but would you?
Would you? And then what kinds of things would you ask for if we were asking for increased funding?
Would you be willing to?
Would we have a couple examples of like funding for maybe something more specific than maintaining green space? Like, are we
Maybe
needing more
this-
money to plant trees or to prune trees or to plant other native vegetation.
Would you be willing to let us train the groundskeepers so that we don't have volcanoes around the city trees because they're gonna die?
I don't know if council has control over that exact thing.
Yeah, that's Public Works.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there again, why we have to get involved with Public Works, but maybe,
Maybe something even more simple, like, are you willing to learn more information about why trees are important to our community?
Yeah.
If we,
would you like
Like-
some additional information?
yeah, would you be willing to have additional information sent to you about the importance of trees in our community and why we feel they're play a significant role in a healthy, thriving community?
Will you come to our Arbor Day celebrations?
Oh yeah, would you like to be a part of an Arbor Day celebration in April? That's a fun question. I think we should keep our beginning questions fun before we scare them away.
Get them hooked is what she's saying. But what points, I mean, if we
That's a
want
good
to-
question though, if they want to participate in Arbor Day.
Who's gonna say no?
Do we want to put points in there, informational points about our committee? I mean, granted, we don't have our mission statement yet, so we can't provide that to them.
Well, we could put some draft ones in there. Or we can, if we agree on one right now, we can just email the others and they can say yes or no, and then maybe we could have it in a week or two to include in the letter. Because, I mean, there's 4 of you. What's considered a quorum out of 7?
4.
I
And then
would
you
think
could,
we have a quorum.
and then you can wait and just email the other 3 and ask them. Or just say, this is our draft mission statement till we get it formally approved, since we are a new committee.
So where are we with the mission statement? Remind me.
I don't know that we can get something together today. That's gonna take a while.
Yeah.
Well, it was mostly narrowed down, wasn't it? Or is it still not quite narrowed
In
down?
the Google Drive, we had, like, there is the one that I just drafted before we did the activity, but I think what we did during the activity is gonna help to inform something that's more like, based on us and our visions rather than just taking wording from other committees. So we put in the summaries that Kathy made for when we said, like, what would success look like? We have our greener, healthier Erie. We had, I think some of it was on here.
I can't remember.
I don't know. It still feels like it's coming together, but there's a lot of different words out
Okay.
there on the drive
Okay.
that, if it's helpful, I can put together a couple more statements based on those things that you can all take a look and say, here's kind of what we like the sound of.
Yeah, I think that's gotta really kind of be our next step.
Yeah, we definitely
if
need to
we're
get that
gonna
nailed down.
develop An actual plan, that's kind of the first step in developing an actual plan, is to define the mission and vision. So, that'd be great if we
Sure.
could do that.
And
Thank
do you want some help? Like I said, I will go home tonight. I've got my evening planned, and I will type out the Post-it notes. I may have to email it to you in a document.
Sure.
I don't know that I trust myself posting to Drive, but that will help. And then because, so if you want a couple of other people to help you, or if you want to email things out to us, and we can do that, but don't want you
Yeah, I would love feedback just on some of those specific wordings.
Okay.
And some of them are in the original document where I put, like, do we want to say something more like embrace or something like value? Or do we want to say protect? Or do we want to say advocate for?
Okay.
Like, which of those words fits the best with what role we
Okay.
see our committee
All right.
filling for the next few years?
Yeah, well, that's a good idea. Maybe if, once you get all the sticky notes typed up, and then you can develop some sample sentences, and then we
Yeah.
can have time to think it over, and then email them to everybody and say, we want to be able to nail this down at the next meeting, so hopefully you can attend.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of our priority.
Yeah, and I think if we could nail something down again before our next committee, I mean, we can, at least so that we can get this out to city council members and say, these are our drafts, this is what we've been doing.
Yeah, I think you could just say it's our draft one.
Yeah, I
If you
think that
wanna-
that's a
If you're
good
confident,
idea.
Stephanie, I mean, you had one put together before we did
Yeah.
the exercise, I'd
And
just
the
go with
exercise
that.
confirmed, like, in terms of those 4 goals, the ones that we came up with in the exercise almost exactly mirrored the ones that I wrote based on what we had talked about. So we have our education piece, we have our policy piece, we have our, like, protecting and caring for the trees we have piece, and then I think there was one other thing, and I forget what it was, but we had 4 goals that were,
And maybe that's what we put in our introductory letter is, these are our goals, you know, because we do know what those are.
Mhm.
And again, we want to keep our introductory letter short and sweet, enough to bring some interest but not overwhelm them. And then maybe once, but yes, let's try and get our mission statement in November.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
but we
I
can
like
do
it.
a letter before that, yeah, like you're saying.
Yeah, yeah, I think though if we just put our goals, these are our goals, we're still working on things.
Yeah. And I'm comfortable, I mean, if the 2 of you think it's good, you can just email it out if you want, or opinion, otherwise.
Yeah, email to all of us. and-
Yeah,
and then
we can say-
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because if our names are going on it, we should kind of look at it.
Yeah.
oh
Okay,
yeah.
I have to leave in a few minutes because of parking meter issues.
Oops. Yeah, the
So-
tickets are $15. I got one yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
Man, 15.
Well, I put a quarter in one meter and it didn't register, so then I moved to the meter in front of it and put a quarter in there, so. And I'm sure I only have an hour, but I paid for 2.
I love the Meter Ease app.
One more thing to put on the phone.
Yes.
So can we just talk real quickly about the Arbor Day celebration and who,
Yes.
and a plan for it?
Well, we nominate you as the chairperson for that committee.
Yeah, I didn't want to just put myself in the driving seat there on that one, but.
I've nominated you though.
Okay.
You've got tons of experience.
Well,
Is that okay? And who else wants to play? Steph, do you want to play?
I would love to involve students in this.
Okay.
And I work with, right now we're doing after-school programs every day at the middle and high schools. So I have some kids I can pull from who are really interested in whether it's gardening, nature, the environment. And if you let me know how you could see them participating, if you want them to come up with ideas or we want to give them a little bit of direction and say, hey, do you want to work on whatever it might be, I can get that out to them with enough time that they can, you know, plan and we can do whatever we need to do.
Okay,
That's
how
I
about
would
if we
involve.
email back and forth stuff about that?
Okay.
Okay,
So Jenny, you're gonna take that on
with Steph.
with Steph.
Do we know when Arbor Day is?
It's
It's
in
the
April.
last Friday of April, so it's either the 27th, 28th.
I always have to look at when it's Easter, when it's Passover.
Because I think we talked about this last time. If it's anywhere near Earth Day,
Earth Day is
we've
April.
often done something with the student green teams or environmental clubs where we try to do an Earth Day, whether it's a workshop for people or we set up a table and educate people about something that the students care about. So if there's a way that they could tie together, I think it would
Well,
help
Ear-
with.
Earth Day is April 22nd, and it's a Friday, and Arbor Day is the following Friday, April 29th.
Okay.
There you go.
We can also invite, like city council to
I'm
come
sure,
to.
I don't want to speak for Jamie, but I know the league would want to be involved in planning an Arbor Day. They want to do something for Arbor Day. And
Yeah, it would be nice to do a partnership.
Be involved in that.
All right, the 3 of us will email.
Yeah, that would be.
Okay.
All right, don't-
I'm gonna pop out now, because
Is there-
I don't want a $15 parking ticket.
No,
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too.
glad you could come. That's good.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Awesome.
Are there any other organizations locally who it would be good for us to like have them on our radar or be talking to them who are doing things with trees or more widely with the environment? Like if we're gonna do something with stormwater and we have a specific ask, having other groups on board might be really helpful down the line, like kind of they're aware of us and we're in conversation with each other. And I don't, other than Environment Erie that no longer exists, I'm wondering, like, I know LEAF Are there other groups? Is there, like, there's a Sierra Club, maybe?
There's Crane, the Climate Resilience Action Network of Erie. I mean, they would support projects we do. I don't know if they'd want to get involved in actual tree planting, but if we needed like letters of support or something, they would. So would the PLUA, the Pennsylvania Lake Erie Watershed Association, because the health of a watershed is directly related to how many trees are in it and water quality and all those issues. So PLUA would be, and PLUA is what is left over from Environment Erie, because it was Sister Pat's Earth Force group, and PLUA merged and formed Environment Erie, but then Environment Erie disbanded, and so we still have PLUA, and instead of Earth Force, Sister Pat's just works with the neighborhood art house now.
Right.
But there's also Asbury Woods, even though they're in Mill Creek Township, they have mentioned before they would be willing to partner with us on projects, and they have partnered with
Yeah,
other
Asbury
groups
Woods
on
would be a
projects.
natural, yeah.
Yeah, and of course,
Yep.
leave.
But we could also reach out to some of the neighborhood groups, like our West Bayfront on the west side, or
Oh,
BEST,
yes.
the Bayfront East Side Task Force on the east side, or some of the other neighborhood watch groups. Because they like to, I'm sure they would all like to do either Earth Day or an Arbor Day event, or participate, or if we invited them, or depending on what we want to try to do, we can ask if anybody's
Yeah,
interested in
the
planning
Conservation
anything
District would be
in their neighborhood.
the other agency that's actively involved in these issues.
The Sons of Lake Erie, their focus is also on water and fishing, but they would also support trees.
That's a great organization that I know very little about, but I learned some. It's like, wow, you guys are impressive. But yeah, I think that was one of the things that we came up with last time, was to sort of identify other groups that would work with us. But I know one of the things on today's agenda was about projects that Sarah has, and what we also need from these groups or somebody is volunteers, because this committee, we're a committee of 7, and we can only do so much, and you guys are all involved in so many other things. But yeah, we could probably
Well, I think for your planning for Arbor Day, that advised to reach out to some other organizations. Otherwise, I think we need to focus on developing our own mission, vision, plan before we can really go out and
Mhm.
say, we need your help for
yeah.
X, Y, Z.
We just wanted to get a handle on the date, so if we do want to do something, we know by how long we have to try to get settled.
No, I think we should start planning for that. That is
Yes.
something that we can do, and I'm sure Leaf would be part of it, and several of the organizations you mentioned would be part of it.
Yeah, I can make a list of all the groups that I work with if you want, Stephanie, and give that to you.
And Future,
That would be
you-
great.
been working on advocating for an environmental advisory council for the city,
Ooh.
for the county, yes, it is, for the county.
City.
City?
It's actually in the Pennsylvania
Oh, that's right.
legislation
It is
that
city.
a city can
Yeah,
have
okay.
one, but it's not for a county. And Mayor Chambers has said before he thinks it would be a good idea to have,
Yeah.
and so I think it's,
Is
Well,
that something
was
the
city.
council would have to vote on?
yes.
And we got a good start on that. I mean, Penn Future got a good start of it, but then Sarah, our
Bennett.
local campaign managers, moved over to Asbury Woods. So we haven't hired anybody yet, but there's a good chance we'll be hiring somebody pretty quickly. So that process will start again. That's the top of the list for Penn Future's local activities. And so that's very much related to everything we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we might just want to, the next time the mayor attends a meeting, just ask him if he's still in favor of it, and, what do we need to do to go to city council? I mean, John, in those meetings, we know we just have to have I just don't know how much we have to have ready ahead of time. Like this committee formed and we didn't have anything ready ahead of time. We're forming our mission and statement and goals now. So do we have to have a lot of stuff ahead of time, or
Well,
can
I
we
think that-
just form a committee and then figure it out?
Well, the idea is that Penn Future's working on working those things out with the participation of all the people that are been involved in those meetings. And they will proceed with that when there's a new staff person identified. Because I think you hand it over to the city, it's not going to go anywhere.
Right, that's why
Unless it's
we
pretty well
need to know
organized already.
what is the steps, because he's already in support of it, so I don't really know what has to happen besides we ask people to apply to be on the committee.
Well,
Because that's all that
you
happened.
need to define what the committee is and what it's going to do.
Well, that's true. I guess the ordinance was already established for this committee, so we need to have the
Exactly.
ordinance
So
established.
that's what the group that Sarah had organized was working on, and will be again here shortly. So I wouldn't jump the gun on that. What else we got?
Do you have any hands-on projects that you need help with?
Right now, I don't have removal projects. I still need to get the stakes and ties off of all the baby trees that were planted. And I know Mark Spitulski said he would help with that. So I can still put that out there if people want to like
Do you
sign
have
up to different streets.
Yeah, do you have a list of the streets that are available? Because I would do that.
Yeah, I just have
would
to
take
email
any
it
of
to
my
all of
student
you.
groups if we can walk within a few blocks of the school to do it. I would just have to get permission for them to go off-site, which is not hard. And we could like plan to do it in the coming month whenever we have a good weather day.
Yeah.
I just need to know where to go.
Okay, I'll email that list, because in the spring, I want to try to get out to prune every single one of them, but there's like 400 of them, and like some of them maybe they died, like some got run over by a car, maybe they're not even there anymore. Some are, do they need mulch, do they need pruned? Like I'd like to get a whole bunch of tree days scheduled and email out all of the people that we know and see who can come on all these, and just say this is the day that we're doing it. If you can come, if not, not. And I usually do them on like, let's say Wednesdays from like 6 to 8, or Saturdays 10 to noon or something, or like Tuesdays or like whatever night, and then plan a whole bunch like around Earth Day and Arbor Day, because that would be good too, because I'd really like to get all those baby trees trimmed at least once
Yeah.
and inspected to see did they survive, didn't they survive, because we were having a problem with the people who maintain the boulevards hitting them with weed whackers, and so that might have killed some of them. And like, which ones are they still doing it, or did they stop? Like, do we need to put wraps on the trees, or do they need watered? Like, a lot of them didn't get watered the way they should. Like, they kind of just need inspected, you know what I mean? And
Are those inspections something that regular volunteers can do if they have
they can
the
do
information?
them if I trained them to how to do them, and like just went over all the things to look for, and I can make a sheet so they can check it off,
Maybe you
so
could
they
make a
don't forget.
video, well, yeah, like a video or an info sheet, so that you wouldn't have to physically host trainings for everybody. But say people sign up, like people who signed up for Relief, all these tree planters, when I had trees come to me, I had like 20 people emailed me and said, hey, if you need help planting, we'll come and help you plant. And I only needed like 2 people helping, but if we had people who want to do it, and then even just an idea like that week between Arbor Day and Earth Day or something, really do a push for like, we have 400 trees that we need to inspect and write down their condition, and try to get people who would take that on, and then they could find out from you what they need to do.
We could definitely do that for just the inspection, but if they actually want to prune the trees, I would be more comfortable giving them hands-on training.
That makes sense.
But it doesn't take that long. It would only take it still only takes 10 or 15 minutes, but they just need the time to do it, to see me do it and then do it. So I think we could do both. I think there's just the plain assessment inspection we could have everybody do, but then we could also have people sign up for pruning workshops to learn how to prune trees, because not everybody might not want to prune either, but they might be willing to help just go out and inspect them and remove stakes and tags, or just do an inspection. Because that would be awesome, because it's a lot of trees, and all those baby trees need somebody to go out and check them. And spring's a good time to do it, because people want to get outside, and the trees are just starting to grow, so it's also a fun time of year to get outside and look at all the baby trees.
And Steph, in answer to your question, Relief has a lot of planning happening here in the next month or so. So, are you going to sign up as a volunteer with Relief?
I don't know.
If you do, you get notifications.
Then no, I guess maybe I'm not.
Planting opportunities.
Is your volunteer group still, or are they still engaged the way they were? Because in the spring, people were awesome. Like, we had people out. There were so many people who were into it. I was very encouraged. I was like, if there's this many people who care about the trees, it's just a kind of a boost when you're...
Well, and they'll come back out for this fall planting too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll sign up for that.
Yeah, if you would, then that would keep you informed on what the opportunities are for volunteer engagement.
Yeah. It would be also nice, in the past I do what I call neighborhood walks, where we, like a neighborhood group invites me into their neighborhood, and we just walk around the neighborhood and we talk about all their trees. And like, then I can do a tree pruning demonstration if they ask, or we go over how to plant them and how to mulch, and like the health, like any questions they have at all, we just answer questions. We just walk around everybody's house and look at all their plants and answer questions. But it would be nice if we did that, like if the inspections, if we can invite the neighborhood groups where the trees are to become involved, to try to get more of the neighbors to be more involved in the tree planting, because some of the neighborhoods, everybody loves the trees and is super excited for them and they ask for them. But other places, like one neighbor might have asked for a tree and all of the other neighbors come out and tell me how much they hate trees, and that's kind of depressing. And so it'd be nice to get more, get the neighbors more involved in doing like fun things with the trees.
But that's one of the things that when we get our space on social media, however we do it, that's an offering, is the neighborhood walk, because I didn't know that was something that was available.
Yeah, and they're fun, because I really don't have to plan anything ahead of time. I can just show up and like with my tools, and you can just do
and all your knowledge.
So they're kind of, and it's fun because you get to go around and meet all the trees in that neighborhood, like where you might not necessarily go and walk around that slowly. And so like, what's cool about it is like the neighborhood group usually announces it to their neighbors ahead of time. So if you want to come and go on the whole walk, you can, but if you can't, you can say, well, on your walk, could you stop at my house? And then when we get to your house, you can come out and talk to us, and then go back in and we go on with our walk, So
wow.
That's kind of fun too. If you don't have a
awesome.
full 2 hours, you can just say you want to be us to stop by.
Huh.
But last year we didn't do any because of COVID, but
Yeah.
it'd be fun to do them again.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty clear too that there are a lot of activities that we didn't do last year because of COVID that we now know are safe to do. You're outside and...
Right, that is an outdoor activity,
Yeah.
so it would be
Yeah.
okay to do.
Yeah. But yeah, and I think in addition to putting together where you need the trees inspected and pruned and whatever coming up, but I think if you can also put together a rough list of throughout the year the activities that you do or would like to be involved with, that you need some help with, either multiple volunteers or other leaders or something. Because again, the neighborhood walks sound great, but that's 2 hours out of your time, and there are lots of neighborhoods. So, I'm thinking, is there somebody that we can...
Well, Mark would be able to host those as well.
Yeah.
And then once we could always invite other landscapers, or maybe invite a tree contractor to donate 2 hours in honor of Arbor Day to go out to lead a walk or something. Because I used to have asked tree companies to donate their services for Arbor Day and have them prune trees in either city parks or city boulevards, like an Adopt a Park or Adopt a Boulevard type thing, because we don't have funding for pruning trees. And so that was a nice thing too, But it kind of went by the wayside because they didn't get that much recognition. But we could easily, I mean, I'm sure Mayor Schember would be willing to show up in an event or invite him into a press conference to say thanks, or a city council meeting, invite him in to say thank you or something like that.
Yeah,
If it was connected to Arbor Day, because then that gives them a little more publicity.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And then some of them might be willing to lead, you know, like, cause there's other certified arborists, like Ken Fromneck is also, well, he used to be, and I think Dave Marino is at Doll Campers. So, I mean, somebody might be willing to donate a few hours of time too.
Okay. No, that would be good. All right.
Or once you guys come to 3 or 4 of them, you'll be able to run one yourselves, right?
It would be really nice to empower a couple of folks in each neighborhood who care about the trees and who enjoy that, like walking around and connecting with the neighbors. Maybe giving them a chance to participate or making sure that the word really goes out. Then they realize like, oh, I could do this and I live right here and I know which trees I like, and they find out new things and then ask if that's something that they would want to do, you know, seasonally or yearly or something.
That's a good idea. Because we do want people to take ownership of these trees. So yeah, okay, that's a great idea.
Right, and get them to know them more. You can't care about what you don't know, right?
Well, yeah, and I know when I've done like trail work before, it's like once you realize how much work goes into that, you do take great care of, nope, I'm going to walk through the mud puddle and I'm going to stay on the trail and all of those sorts of things. And same thing with the trees. You know, once people don't know, they're like, oh no, those are the city trees, I can't do anything with them. Well, no, we'd really like your help with that.
Right.
So I think empowering someone, but also just giving them permission.
It takes a village to maintain a forest, an
That's
urban forest.
I like that.
To protect an
That's-
urban forest, I guess.
That's a good little slogan.
To care for.
Good.
Yeah, that would be cute. It takes a city to care for an urban forest. That's nice.
I like the village better. Yeah.
A whole city.
All right, so everybody's got something to do here. Sarah's gonna find out about the website, Facebook page issues, how we proceed.
Yes.
I'm gonna write a letter about engaging this group in the stormwater management conversations.
Oh, yeah.
Stephanie and Patty are gonna tackle mission and vision and share it with us, maybe have a conversation with all of us. Ginny and Steph will tackle Arbor Day planning, hopefully with Jamie.
And we'll work on the introductory letter to City Council.
And, all right, City Council, Patty's writing,
And yeah, Stephanie and I will work together on those.
and Steph's writing into the letter.
Yeah. A few of our goals and then a couple of questions. And then we can gauge interest from that.
Okay.
And I think we're aiming for like mid-November for the letter, so probably we're aiming within the next like 2 weeks
Yeah.
to get the mission and goals, at least in a form that we all feel like is something we can send out to people,
Yeah.
even if we're gonna make little tweaks to it.
Well, and I think if we can just put in our introductory letter what our goals are, not the actual, what the overriding goals are, not the individual,
Yeah,
then I think that that's okay.
yeah, I agree.
And then decide what questions, how to phrase those. Yeah, if we can do that. Like I said, I'll go home tonight, get these Post-it notes to think about.
Very good.
Yeah, okay. So it's,
Any other business?
when is our meeting in November? Because I think, isn't that scheduled to be like the day before
November 24th, it says on the agenda.
Thanksgiving?
November 24th.
Oh, John, did you want to mention your concern about invasive species in the parks? Because that could be another project the committee helps with.
About what?
The invasive species in the parks spreading from
Oh,
neighbors dumping their garden
I'll
material.
throw that out there, but I'll proceed with, if did you share that with the other folks? You mentioned?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to discuss it with them in detail, though.
Well, let me know how I can be involved in that.
Okay. His concern was that neighbors dump their garden waste in the parks instead of putting them out for city compost, and they think there's no harm to it, but like,
Yep.
So they're trying to-
it does, some of them are invasive and they do spread, and then it interferes with our native wildlife plants in the forests and the health of the forests, and even people just take their cat litter and dump it in the woods, which is annoying.
Well, the really annoying part is like that, I want to remove that big, there's like two things of Pachysandra, and there's like this like soil with them that they dump in there, like they're growing.
Yeah, they
Two
just
things,
need
but
picked
they
up and
drop
thrown in
them
the
in a
garbage.
wheelbarrow or something, and I can't even carry them out of there without having some kind of equipment.
Yeah, I'll see if we can at least get rid of those too.
Yeah, and there's tons of fresh stuff there. They're dumping them there all the time. So,
And it is more of I think it's more of an education issue. I don't think people realize that the plants survive and then grow in the forest and then kill off, outcompete the native plants. And so it is more like an educational campaign where like maybe we could put a flyer together and then someone go door to door and just deliver them to all the houses. And then when people knock on the door, if they stop, you can talk to them about it for a minute or two. and
I would be
explain
more
it.
than happy to be a part of that as well, because.
Oh, that would be great. Because sometimes you just need that face-to-face interaction
Well,
with somebody.
and people don't know, if they're not plant people,
Yeah, and they just think it's no big deal. I mean, it's all natural, so why not just dump it there? It's
Yeah.
easier.
yeah.
And
it's
I
like
just think
it's-
they don't, I don't think they're purposely trying to harm the forest. I just
No.
think they don't realize
No.
the problems that it causes.
No, it's just like, I live in Glenwood, and like I said, I'll go down Parkside, and, there are things planted there that are not really supposed to be there, but they've been there for a while. And, some of them don't spread, some of them do, and it's like, ugh. So, yeah.
Yeah, that would be good.
All the parks, all the city parks, wherever they're bordered by residences,
Mhm.
there's invasives. And
Yeah.
people do that.
Yeah.
They don't, we need to train them.
Yes,
This is not good. This is not.
yeah, educate and train and say,
Yeah.
this is
a
why.
dangerous thing to do. It seems to do something so organic matter. How could that be bad? Well, still a lot.
It could be worse than plastic, quite frankly. Not
All right.
much, but job well done.
Move to adjourn.
Yes. Oh, and did we approve the minutes?
We didn't really have minutes. It was just a list of who's here, so
Such as they are.
I think it's good.
Yes.
I think we.
I think we're
Consensus.
good.